G'day, ZiggyD here with some Path of Exile news and, well, discussion, because in this video I'm going to be talking about the new challenge leagues, the new 4-month leagues that are coming in patch 0.11.1 next month. Because these are awesome. This is the single best and most exciting news I've heard for Path of Exile since its initial open beta launch. It's pretty exciting stuff, and it actually takes a bit of time thinking about these. The more I think about these, the more I see how awesome this is going to be and how many good things are going to come from this for the game, how good this is going to be for the game. So I'll start off by just explaining what the leagues are and how they work. Then I'll talk about the superficial level of why they're good. Then I'll talk about the more deeper levels of why they're good. Hopefully, you guys find this pretty interesting. Anyway, so next month we have 2 new 4-month leagues. Default was recently renamed to be Standard League, and this is to tie in with this change as well. It makes a lot of sense once you see everything together. So there's still Standard, aka Default, and the Hardcore leagues, and they're your base leagues now. So they're the permanent ones that will always be there and will never change, and everything gets thrown back into those essentially. Now with new Anarchy and Onslaught, Anarchy is basically the new default 4-month ladder challenge league, and Onslaught is the new hardcore 4-month ladder challenge league. So what Anarchy adds into the game is this 4-month league where you play through the game, still fairly normal, not hardcore mode, so you can die and still respawn as many times as you want with only your normal experience penalties. However, to make things more exciting and interesting, there's now a preset list of hostile rogue exiles that roam about. So it says they roam about Ray class, so I don't know, this could mean that you'll just randomly bump into them, or they could maybe even invade your instances. We'll have to see specifically for that, but nonetheless, needless to say, you're going to be bumping into these other exiles, and they're going to be, have different types of abilities and powers and things like that. Now, when you kill one of these rogue exiles, these NPC-controlled exiles, you get a piece of gear from every gear slot from them, and these are at least magic or higher. So this means you're going to get either a full set of magics, or full set of magics and some rares, full set of rares, or you could even get some magics, rares, and maybe even some unique items off them. So basically, it's like you're killing another person in Cutthroat, and they have a full set of gear, and probably pretty good gear too, because as you progress through the game, these guys are going to get more powerful. You're going to be bumping into more powerful exiles, and you're going to be getting more powerful full gear sets off them. So it's pretty exciting. I think there's going to be this whole meta game, this whole mini game of hunting down these different exiles. You're playing like some sort of dagger shadow, some lightning dagger shadow, and all of a sudden you come across another lightning dagger shadow, and this guy's going to have sick gear for you. If I can just kill this guy, it's going to be challenging, but if I can kill him, I'm going to get this awesome burst of gear, and that's pretty exciting. I'll tell you what, originally I was thinking I'm just going to jump straight into Onslaught League. I probably won't touch the Anarchy League, but after reading about this and seeing how much fun that could be, I'm pretty sure I'm actually going to be kicking things off with the Anarchy League at least, and maybe doing some Onslaught later on. But this is that's pretty exciting in and of itself. So the next one, the Onslaught League, is the new hardcore challenge 4-month league, and basically it is a lighter version of the turbo races. So the turbo races have been very popular. People have been enjoying and playing those more than they have the standard hardcore whatever races, like 1-week races and things like that. People really enjoy the turbo leagues, at least. So now we're going to have this turbo 4-month league. It seems like Chris said it's going to be a lighter version of it, so that means things might not be quite as fast and dangerous, but we'll see how that turns out. It should be scaled differently. But basically they have increased movement speed, increased attack speed, and increased cast speed. So what this does is, for the hardcore players, this gives them an alternative league. I think most hardcore players will be playing in that is just more challenging. They have to gear their characters differently, and tied in with some of the other balance changes and things like that they're going to be making, we could see a lot of different diversity and things like that in it. So now let's talk about, I guess we'll start with the bad. What I think will bother some people about these new leagues, and that is dividing people up. Now this is obviously, it's a problem you can't really ignore. Like when we've recently had the 1-month race, basically people would say the hardcore league was like barren. There was no one there. There was no one in trade chat. There was no one in general chat. Just no one to talk to, no one to do games with, because all those like serious hardcore players were playing in the 1-month race. And yeah, I think that's actually going to continue to happen with these new 4-month leagues as well. But basically, it's kind of, it's a bit double-edged, because the people in standard and hardcore leagues aren't really going to lose their characters or anything like that. They can continue to play in there. most of the people I think that are worried about the community being divided up, the people that are actually bothered by that, I think will go and play in Anarchy or Onslaught, and that's where all of that community will be. There'll still be some people playing in Standard, and there'll still be some people playing in Hardcore, and they'll be able to do that. The characters aren't going to get deleted or anything like that. But these two new leagues allows grinding gear games to have these things where they can actually really push the limits of what they can do with these different leagues, different rule sets, test a lot of different things without actually changing Standard League for the players that just want to keep playing the game as per Standard, because there's always going to be those people in Standard or in Hardcore League that just want to get their level 90 something character up to 1100 and really perfect the gear, and that's what they enjoy, so they can continue to enjoy that. So although dividing up the community is going to happen to an extent, I don't think it will bother most people, because those people will probably just move to Anarchy and Onslaught, but we'll have to see how that one plays out. So now let's talk about why this is good. On the superficial level, this adds extra for us to do. Anarchy is going to be basically a more exciting version of Default or Standard League. It's basically the same thing, but we now have these exiles to fight. Now, on top of that, here's the really exciting thing. We have a completely fresh economy. The biggest problem with Default or Standard League by far is that everything from Hardcore to Standard to all the races pretty much gets eventually funneled into Standard or Default League, and there's huge amounts of inflations there, and it's really hard if you're playing a new character in Standard to roll a new character. If you want to buy stuff, it's going to be almost impossible because just inflation gets so high, and it also just doesn't feel so great to play when you have that sort of thing going on. Basically, Anarchy is a fresh version of Default with that added excitement of the new exiles. Now, Onslaught is the same thing, but for Hardcore mode, it's also got that extra challenge. And here's where things all really tie together in a really exciting fashion. So basically, whereas before Hardcore would feed back into Standard, and basically people doing the 1 month race or something like that, or people just pushing Hardcore really fast, when they died in Hardcore, they would go back to Standard, and they would be higher than other people on the ladder. So we recently had the case of people dying at level 90 something in Hardcore. They would instantly go back to Default League and be the highest people on that ladder, until recently when we had someone on Default League actually reach level 100. Nicely done. But that was, that was an issue, and everything that those people died with went back to Default. Now with Onslaught and Anarchy, this is essentially our new Hardcore and Default leagues, yet they won't affect each other in any way. So when you die in Onslaught, maybe I'll draw some arrows on screen to point this out. When you die in Onslaught League, your character will go back to Standard. Standard is kind of the sewerage of grinding gear games, of Path of Exile. That sounds really offensive, and I guess it kind of is, but I just mean that in the sense that all of the waste, everything that dies and comes from the other leagues will go back into Standard eventually. Everything goes there, and that means there's going to be bunches of super imbalanced items will all eventually end up there, and everything can go back there. That's you're in closed beta. We had this league where before any major changes were made, or whenever any major changes were made, everything was funneled back into this legacy league. Standard's kind of legacy league now, really. So any character that dies in Onslaught will go to Standard. Any character that survives Onslaught for the entire 4 month will then go back to Hardcore. So similar sort of thing, but then there's the ladder reset, and people can play in the new Onslaught League. And this is just really homes in on the point of what I think a game like this really needs. One of the biggest reasons why Diablo 2 continues to be popular to this day is because of the league and ladder resets, Nothing is more inspiring to go back and play Diablo 2 when you see that there's a ladder reset coming up. You think, there's a ladder reset coming up, everyone's going to start at level 1, the economy's going to be brand new and fresh. That's exciting. I think I might go install Diablo 2 again and try it out. And this same sort of thing is going to be happening with Path of Exile. People might get pretty fatigued of the game by 2 or 3 months into the league, but then the ladder reset comes around and you've got a completely new league, and possibly with other new changes as well. Because in 4 month grinding gear games can come up with a lot of things to put in these new Anarchy and Onslaught leagues, maybe even rule set changes completely that people can jump in and enjoy. So with the Anarchy League, just to finish painting this picture for you guys, anyone that dies in Anarchy stays in Anarchy. Nothing changes there, since it's basically your default league. It's not Hardcore. However, when that 4 month rolls over, all the characters from there will be going back to Standard. So what this means, in the grand sense of it, it means that grinding gear games now have a way to test things in a completely new and fresh sense, whilst also giving enough time for them to actually get some good feedback on them. So a point about this is the items. They're removing some types of items from the game and placing in other ones. So I believe Anarchy and Onslaught won't have things like Comb's Heart, they won't have certain other uniques, they won't have things like Onyx Amulets, or the all resist ring, for some reason the name of which escapes me right now, but they're able to test the game without these certain items that are pretty much seen as crucial or best in slot that people always use, and this allows them to get good feedback on that without actually taking the item out of the game for the standard or hardcore players that want to keep using them. If they took Comb's Heart out of hardcore now, people would be super upset. It would be a terrible thing to do. However, with Onslaught, they're having this new separate league that doesn't affect the people that want to continue playing hardcore. They're not taking Comb's Heart away from anyone, they're just allowing the game to be tested without it, and that same sort of thing is going to happen. And they can test those without those affecting each other, and without those affecting the other leagues. However, these new items you get in Anarchy and Onslaught, the new types of rings and amulets, and the new unique items associated with those can go back to standard hardcore. So there's actually pretty big rewards to playing in that. And then on top of all this, they have this new challenges system where basically you do these crazy things like, use one of each currency or do all these other different challenges, some of which are very big. Then maybe you can even win a t-shirt. So that's pretty cool stuff, pretty exciting stuff. Anyway, I think that's probably enough of a rave. I think I've covered most of the points I think about why this is really good. Basically, the biggest thing I think is that not only is it going to give us ladder resets and exciting new things to play around with, it allows grinding gear games to really test out taking items out of the game, putting new items in the game, and without having Anarchy and Onslaught affecting each other like Stand and Hardcore do. We have a fresh economy and a lot of fun to play with. I'm really looking forward to playing around next month, and I hope you guys are too. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.